Well, he engaged in multiple suspected robberies before shooting two of our finest people, two of New York's finest, as we call them, in Palm Beach County, Florida, last month. An illegal alien criminal who Joe Biden released into the United States was charged for kidnapping an 11-year-old girl from her front yard and sexually assaulting her in the back of a van. And, of course, there was this horrific case of Laken Riley, who's incredible. I met the parents, and maybe here. The young nursing student, beautiful person, beautiful, top of her class, everything, from Georgia, who was savagely beaten and murdered by a bloodthirsty Biden migrant allowed in through Biden after Crooked Joe set him loose into our country. They set him loose right into our country. Instead of apologizing to Laken Riley's family, Joe Biden apologized to her killer for calling him illegal. Do you remember that? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry I called him illegal. He actually apologized. He went on. He apologized to this guy. And remember when Biden could not even pronounce Laken's name correctly in probably the worst State of the Union anyone's ever heard. Under the Trump administration, we will not be apologizing to illegal alien criminals. We will be putting them behind bars and throwing them out of our country rapidly. With his actions on the border, Joe Biden is the ringleader of one of the most vile criminal conspiracies of all time, aiding and abetting human traffickers, child smugglers, and terrorists. That's what he's doing. They have no fear. They know nobody's going after them. They can do whatever they want. And that goes with drugs. More drugs are coming into our country right now than at any time in our history, ×5 or ×6. We've never had massive amounts of drugs pouring into our country. We fought it like hell. We were fighting. And by the way, you'll never solve the problem without the death penalty. When I was in China, I was with President Xi, 1.4 billion people, strong guy, and we got along well until COVID. And I said, the hell with it, man. It wasn't. What they unleashed on the world was incredible. But we got along well, and he was going to stop the fentanyl coming into the United States. But I said to him, do you have first meeting, a little naive question, but it's all right, not so bad. Do you have a drug problem? No, I do not have a drug problem. No, don't you have any? No, we have no drug problem. Why? Swift trial. I said, what is swift trial? Swift trial. What swift trial is they catch the drug dealer, and they gave him a swift trial, meaning a very fast trial. At the end of the trial, if he's guilty, they execute him. Every drug dealer in China said, let's get the hell out of here. Let's go to the United States, where you don't even get a slap on the wrist, right? And I don't know that our country is ready for it. And I'll be honest with you, if you really knew the stats, a drug dealer, on average, during that drug dealer's life, will kill approximately 500 people. Do you know that, Paul? 500 people will die. Families, family members, children, young children, girls, boys, parents sometimes too. 500 people on average. And when you hear that, it doesn't sound so severe. You know, we would set up blue ribbon committees at the White House. We'd get socialites from New York, even socialites from Arizona. They'd sit around the table, they'd talk about it for 5 minutes, and then they'd start talking about what restaurant they're going out to dinner. These people are really tough and they're smart. The cartel people, they run these things like the best corporations in the country. They say they run more efficiently. They know how to do it. They're horrible people. They're killing hundreds of thousands of Americans each year. And when I mentioned it, and I do it purposely, I mentioned the death penalty, and without it, you're never going to solve the problem. If you look at Singapore, if you look at the only countries, essentially, that don't have a problem are people with either really strong crime prevention or countries with the death penalty. And Singapore is another one. They don't even know what you're talking about when you said you have a drug problem. Do you have a drug problem? No, we don't have a drug problem. Why would we have a drug problem? We have an unbelievable drug problem. We lost last year, in my opinion, 300,000 people. That's bigger than a war. That's bigger than a war. And so many times they're young people. And so many times it was a mistake. They thought they were taking something else. If you take the head of a pin and put a little fentanyl on the head, if it's a little bit larger than the head of a pin, you're dead. You have no chance. And this is pouring in from China, and I had a deal with President Xi. He was going to give the death penalty to anybody manufacturing fentanyl in China and selling it to the United States. But then when the election was rigged and didn't turn out right, he didn't have to do anything, and this group definitely didn't want to pursue that. But we had a deal. They weren't going to be sending the fentanyl into us anymore. But we have to do something with Mexico. 300,000 people are dying a year. Those are the real numbers. They like to say 100. They like to say 90. It's been that number for a long time. It's 300,000 people, and it's probably more than that. And we're going to have to take very strong action because we can't let that happen. That's like being in a war. You take a look at the Civil War. You take a look at wars that we've had where the numbers are not so much more than that. Double for the Civil War. That was a war within our country. And you take a look at this. We cannot let this stand any longer. We cannot take it from China, from Mexico, from anywhere else. We have to clean out the problem. And the people that do it, the tougher they are, the less of a problem they have. It's actually a very simple solution. In addition to all of the Biden migrant crimes stealing innocent American lives, Crooked Joe is also responsible for more women and children being sold into slavery than anyone else in modern history because we are so weak on the borders now. We were so strong. This guy goes to the beach all the time. You ever watch him in a bathing suit? Somebody told him he looks good. Oh, Joe, you look great in a bathing suit. You know, you're 82 years old. You look fantastic. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 pounds. You know those chairs, aluminum, hollow aluminum. They're built for old people to lift and for children to lift. He can't lift. Well, today he couldn't get up, right? That was not good. What the hell happened to him today? It's always an adventure. He falls out of airplanes, he falls out of helicopters. What the hell is going on? But because of Biden's policies, millions and millions of children have been separated from their families and pushed into the hands of the coyotes and the cartels. And you know, 88,000, I don't know if you do, if it were me, it would be the biggest story. 88,000 children are missing. You know that, 88,000, think of that. 88,000 children are missing under this administration, and they have no idea. And unfortunately, many of those children are dead, just like many of the hostages held by Hamas are dead. When they can't make a deal, you know, when they can't make a deal, that's a big problem. And they're finding out that a lot of them are gone. A lot of these people are gone right now. But there's a thing, again, it never would have happened. October 7th, Israel, the attack on Israel, would have never, ever happened under the Trump administration. When I'm president, I will use Title 42 to end the trial, and we have to do this, to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries, and we will do it immediately. Have to do it. We will save countless women and children from slavery and servitude. You know, when you talk about all of the people that are essentially kidnapped, it's another word for it, most of them are actually women. Most of them, they put them in trunks of cars. They have cells built in cars. They close, it's 100 degrees out, it's 115 degrees out. They put women in that to try and sneak them across the border. And they can do it very easily because the borders, we have an open border into our country. But most of those people are, just think of yourself, think of your family. Most of them are women. The Biden border invasion is also an all-out war on the working class minorities of our country, and it's a flat-out economic warfare on African-American and Hispanic-American families and workers. These people are taking the jobs of African-Americans. They're taking the jobs of Hispanic Americans, and they're tremendously affected. And you know who else is affected? Is unions. Unions are being absolutely slaughtered because people are coming in and they're taking those union jobs, and I think you're going to see unions start to speak up pretty soon. The illegal immigration is hurting black and Hispanic families more than anyone else. In less than 4 years, Joe Biden has imported millions of low-wage migrants and given them welfare, free health care, and work permits to undercut American wages. People with jobs that have had it for a long time are being fired all over our country. Now real income for African Americans is down more than 6% under crooked Joe Biden. Think of it. So that's the African Americans are being, and it's one of the reasons, by the way, have you seen the polls? Okay, the polls for African Americans are loving Trump because they're seeing what's happening, and criminal justice reform. And I funded the colleges and black colleges and universities. Nobody else did that. Nobody else even thought of it. And what we're doing is we're getting tremendous numbers that I don't think anybody's seen before, of African Americans coming over to vote for us. And we need those votes because we have to turn this country around. Simultaneously, illegal immigration is causing rent and housing costs to skyrocket, absolutely skyrocket, because we have 15 million new migrants and we have no place to put them. We have no place to put them. And that number is building so fast. We have absolutely no place. In everything that he does, Joe Biden puts illegal aliens first. He puts the cartels first. He puts the open borders, these lunatics first. And he betrays the American citizens. He's betraying the American citizens. Again, I say it all the time. He's the single worst president in the history of our country. You know, until I got indicted. I got indicted 4 times. Can you believe it? I never spoke. You know, I spoke. I'm a politician, I guess. I can't stand the name, but I'm a politician, I guess. I ran. I won. The only thing I did wrong was I beat somebody that I wasn't supposed to beat. We won the election in 2016. And then in 2020, as we all know, I did much better than I did in 2016. We got millions of more votes, but a lot of bad things happened. You know, they used COVID to cheat, et cetera, et cetera. But we're not going to let that happen again. But as your president, I will put African Americans first, Hispanic Americans first, Asian Americans first, women first, men first, people with diplomas from the top schools first, people without a diploma, that we had them all. But basically, I'll put all Americans first. I'm going to put them first. Because my loyalty is to the American people, and starting on day one, I will shift massive portions of federal law enforcement to immigration enforcement, including parts of the DEA, ATF, FBI, and DHS, if you know what that all is. I will deploy the U.S. Navy to impose a full blockade, like I had, on the cartels, because when the land gets tough to get across, they swing it out with the boats, and we will stop that. We already did. And deny them access to the waterways of our region. We will put the cartels out of business, and I will make clear to every federal department and agency that we must use any and all resources to stop this invasion of our country, including moving thousands of troops, if necessarily, currently stationed overseas, to our own borders. We protect other countries, but we don't protect our own country. Before we defend the borders of foreign countries, we will secure the border of our country. I think that makes sense. But first, and most importantly, because without this, it's only going to go bad, we have to win this November. We have to win. And remember, it starts in mid-September. You know, it's early voting, mid-September. North Carolina goes early. Pennsylvania goes very early, September 22nd in Pennsylvania. So it's really long before the November 5th date. But we use the November 5th because that's the day that we will have a chance, like we did years ago. We turned our country around. We made America great again. In fact, I couldn't use that slogan. I wasn't going to use that slogan in 2020 because America became great again. We were respected all over the world. And now I can use that slogan because our country is we're a failed nation. We need a victory that's too big to rig. You know what that means? We need everybody to get out and vote. Thank you. And you know, it's interesting. We talk about Second Amendment. I'm the one I just got recently the endorsement of the NRA, which I appreciate. Very strong. Very strong. But I was talking to them, and you know, gun owners, for whatever reason, don't vote. They really don't vote. Vote in very, very low numbers. The gun owners have to get. Also, evangelicals and Christians don't vote like they should. If they would vote, we couldn't lose. There's nobody that could beat us. So we have to get the evangelicals. We have to get the gun owners. We have to get these people to vote. And if they vote, nobody can beat us. And if they don't vote, they're going to take away your guns because the Second Amendment is totally under siege. They'll take away your guns. You're not going to have protection. And other reasons that you want guns. So the gun owners have to vote. The Christians, the evangelicals have to go out. They have to vote. So I'm asking everybody to go out, and we have to swamp. You know the word swamp? I fired Comey. I fired a lot of people. I fired a lot of people. We were doing a job. But this is a different swamp. We have to go to swampthevoteusa.com. Swampthevoteusa.com. It's a different version of the word swamp. I never liked the word swamp. And then I said it one time at a big arena. The place went wild. I said, I sort of like it. I sort of like it. You know, Frank Sinatra told me he never liked singing My Way. Except everybody liked it so much, and then all of a sudden he liked it the best. So we like the word swamp because it's meant so much. But we have to swampthevoteusa.com. That's where you go to get the information to request your ballot or pledge to vote early in person or even on election day. The main thing, you've got to vote. And you got to sort of watch your vote because these are crooked people. You got to watch your vote. Watch where it's going. And if you want to volunteer to help us turn out or target voters in your neighborhood, we have a lot of people that want to vote for us, but they don't vote. We got to get them to vote. We need TrumpForce47.com. TrumpForce47.com. And with your vote, we will end Joe Biden's border nightmare. We will fire his failed and weak, horrible, the worst ever administration. We will rescue the state of Arizona. We will make America great again. We will make it great again, greater than ever before. And now, we're going to do something a little different. You think Biden does this? If they ask him one question, he just leaves. They ask him one question. No, we're gonna take some questions. We don't do this often because it gets a little bit sloppy, I must say. But they look like nice people. But whatever question you'd like to ask, it can be a horrible, embarrassing, vicious question, or it could be quite nice. I don't care, personally, because it's called We Answer You. You ask a question, we answer the question. Yes, darling, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for taking the time to answer this question. I am a mother, a wife, and a woman, and I also foster and adopt kids. Growing up near the border, I've seen firsthand how an unsecured border has impacted my family and our community. I worry about the illegal drugs being brought into our community and what could happen to my children. What steps can be taken to reduce the drugs being brought into the country as well, and safety and well-being of families and the community?
Thank you, darling. Good, very good question. It's a very basic question. It's a little bit what we've been talking about, but it's going to be at a level that we have never seen in this country. Even as good as I did, I created the safest border in history. We're going to make it so good. All Biden had to do is let the people stay there, keep the same policies. We wouldn't even be talking about this as an issue. And I think in a certain way, it's just one of the truly big issues. We're going to make our border very powerful, very strong. We're going to stop drugs from coming in. We're going to stop this whole thing with human trafficking, which is a big part of your question. And we're going to make your homeland safe for you to stay with your family, where thousands of people aren't pouring in and looking through your windows. And what they're doing here in Texas, and by the way, the governor of Texas has done a very good job of closing it up. But here, they haven't done that. They haven't done that. And in California, they haven't. 82% of the people are coming in now through California, Arizona. So we're going to have to close it up. We're going to close it up. We're going to use federal powers to close it up. Thank you, darling, very much. Good question. Yes, sir. You're a good-looking guy. Look at that guy. Looks like a banker from Wall Street.
You can see I'm an old man, and I have grandchildren that I want to see taken care of.
Right.
And I love them, and I want them to know that they can have the same life that I have had.
Oh, it's very nice.
What are you going to do about that?
We're going to make sure that they have the same. You know, I mean, I can just see how incredible you are by the emotion of that and the way you asked the question. We're going to make sure they have the same life that you had or better. We're going to make it safe. We have to give authority back to law enforcement so they can properly protect people, because right now, the law enforcement is just not allowed to do their job because crime is so bad. Crime is so bad in the cities. And one of the things I said is we're giving immunity. We're going to guarantee people. You know, they lose a law enforcement person. They go and stop people from robbing stores. You go to some of these department stores where 500 people walk into the stores. They walk out with air conditioning. They strip the whole store. The company goes out of business. The store is vacant for 25 years. The whole city becomes a slum. And if you do anything as a law enforcement person, they take away your house, they take away your family, they take away your pension. We're going to make it so that we're going to give them essentially immunity. We're going to make it that they are not going to be losing their pensions. They're going to be able to do their job. And we're going to get life back to where I know exactly the life that you're talking about. It was a life of common sense. It was a life where there was no crime. There was nobody getting bopped over the head when they weren't looking, getting pushed into a railroad train or a subway. It's just horrible what's taking place. It's horrible. It's evil. We're going to get it back to common sense. We're going to have law and order. Thank you. Great question. Thank you. Great question. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, President Trump, for
Thank
coming
you.
down. We really do appreciate
Thank you.
you.
Thank you very much.
I'm in the unique position of having 2 children that are in their 30s and a set of girls in there that are teenagers. I know what I did have to do with the 30-year-olds. I know what I now have to do with the teenagers. I have trackers on those girls, and I've taught them evasive action when driving through our county because of the high-speed pursuits of the human trafficking.
Who would believe you have to even think about doing that, right?
Never with the original 2.
No, I know that.
How would you handle the criminal activity that is running rampant because of this open border, because all of this is from this open border?
Okay, strength, and we're getting them back. We're bringing them back. In some cases, we'll keep them here. There's some real bad ones, but don't forget, when we keep them here, it costs us millions and millions of dollars per person. It's so crazy. We're getting them the hell out of our country, and we start with the criminals. And you know what? Our local police know who they are. They know their first name, their middle name, their last name. We have to give authority back to the local police, who are fantastic people. Right? Thank you very much. We'll get that stopped, and soon. Yes, sir, please.
Trump, so great to have you here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I'm a veteran Air Force individual.
Good.
But foremost, I am a father and a husband, and I find it frightening that we have illegals crossing our border from countries like China, the Middle East, and other dangerous countries. How will you prevent all this national disaster happening at our southern border?
So we can do things that nobody does with this. And we have tremendous economic power. And by the way, if we're not careful, we're not going to have that for long either. That's going to go down the tubes with everything else. But if China or some other country is behaving badly, we have things called tariffs that are so severe. Mexico, look at Mexico, what they're doing. I can solve that problem, I believe, in one day. You send people through, you allow people to come through your country with hundreds of miles they have to walk, hundreds through. By the way, those caravans, I thought I came up with the name, maybe somebody else did, but they're caravans of thousands of people. The young women in particular, but the young women in those caravans suffer so badly, and there's so much death. So much death. And this is all caused by Biden, where people think they're going to walk into the United States. It's just another form of death. We are going to be so tough, and if a country is not going to behave, we're going to tariff the hell out of that country, because one of the powers that we have, and if we have to, we'll do more than that, but I don't think you're going to need it. I don't think you're going to need it. You know, I had a very good relationship with China, yet I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. No president, we wouldn't have any steel factories, any steel mills in the United States if I didn't do what I did. I was taxing them at 25 and 50%, perhaps going up very substantially, but we wouldn't have industry, certain industry, they would have been gone. And it's not only China, it's every country tries to take advantage of us. The European Union is brutal to us. They don't take our cars. They don't take our food products. They don't take anything. We have a tremendous deficit. You know, the European Union sounds so nice. They're very tough. We have hundreds of billions of dollars of deficits. We had that really going great. Then COVID came in, and I had to take care of that, or we would have had a country that was 1929. If I didn't pour money at COVID, we would have had a country that was in 1929 depression. We handed over a stock market that was higher than just prior to it coming in. But we're going to be very tough on countries, because, you know, you can stop it at the source. If you stop it at the source, it's much easier than really having battles at the border, and we'll stop it at the source. And I'll go back to President Xi, and he'll honor it.